So I want to tell you about my concern for our forests, which are obviously depleting globally. And while the Mayan elders were with me, they explained to me that there would be, one, the rise of the female within each of us, and two, remarkable things would unfold to our culture as to, our beginnings. And also that there would be environmental disasters that we will all have to deal with. And while they were here, and this was, December 2012, Superstorm Sandy hit and knocked out the electricity, flooded the Lower East Side, and caused great devastation to our trees in Central Park. I, at the time, was the president of Furniture New York. So I organized the furniture makers of that time to say to Central Park, we want these fallen timbers to support our local community. And they asked me a tremendous amount of questions about, logical questions about how you're going to move them, how you're going to process them, and who's going to fund this. So I came back with a plan about using local mobile sawmills to take them into the park and distribute them to the local furniture makers to create furniture for the park and also for the furniture makers themselves. And in their deliberation, in walks Chase Manhattan Bank to say, here's $5 million to take these timbers and dump them in the Atlantic Ocean, to which Central Park accepted that offer. All to say that there need to be solutions for the salvation of fallen timber. And in my investigation for where to go, I found arborists, local, and local around the world, whether it's the Philippines, Puerto Rico, who would take the calls from the utility companies, from the road services, to remove trees that had fallen. And he was able to then set up a mill to process it and sell it. So these were the kinds of entrees that I were looking for. I have been looking for. And then, of course, in comes, Hurricane Maria into Puerto Rico that knocks down millions of trees. And at the time, Puerto Rico was completely overwhelmed with their roads and streets covered in debris. And in a panic, FEMA came in with these chipping machines and turned the material into chips for home cooking systems and heating systems. Meanwhile, I was scrambling to find means and mills to process it for my workshop. And because what ended up happening was the hardest of the logs actually broke the chipping machine. So it was those logs that I wanted, and they came up in these huge piles. Anyway, there wasn't enough infrastructure within Puerto Rico to process, and the export system was not in place. All to say, it takes a real team, and it takes establishing a systematic way of processing timber, both within our urban societies and that's what we need. And so we need teams. We need people to be thinking about this into the future. I want to describe another situation where I'm coming from Washington, D.C. in the train, sitting across from a very enthusiastic young man dressed in Yves Saint Laurent, Prada, Louis Vuitton, sitting across the aisle from me. And there I am sitting having a lovely lunch that was prepared for me. And as we complete, my host says, I think this gentleman wants to talk to us. So I turn. He says, have a chocolate bar. And I asked, well, thank you very much. And I said, where are you from? Abu Dhabi. I said, wow, is this the first time to our country? Yes. Where are you headed? Headed for the plaza. I said, oh my goodness gracious. And he was exuberant and so happy to be in our country and to experience our marvelous city. So I said, well, rather than go to the plaza, why don't you come and stay with me? I'm not far from the plaza. And so then he came and he stayed here where I'm sitting. And after 10 days, I start getting a call from Nate Berkus, Oprah's decorator. And he wants my furniture on the stage set of ABC. So I said, yes, of course. So I turned to him and I said, well, let's go to ABC Studios and see Nate Berkus and Oprah's decorator. He said, oh, how exciting. I'd love to see it. And so off we went, and he turned to me and says, Tucker, this is what I'm doing in Abu Dhabi. I said, no, that's wonderful. And then he says, you really have to come to Abu Dhabi. And I said, well, what am I going to do in Abu Dhabi? You've got a bunch of sand, and yes, you've got lots of money, but I'm a maker. I need to make things. He said, well, you'd be surprised. Within the year's time, within a month's time, I have the opportunity to go to the Philippines, and I decide to go over Abu Dhabi and drop in on him. Well, he's in the middle of emceeing the Abu Dhabi Film Festival with the Tribeca Film Festival folks there, over teaching him. And they go like, Tucker, welcome. And so there's, Adrian Brody, Julianne Moore, and Ryan somebody. He says, this is my English teacher. And so then he turns to me and says, Tucker, you're going to stay much longer. All right. So he says, I'm going to introduce you to my boss now. So off we go to meet his boss, the Minister of Culture, who takes me by the hand to say, let me show you our wood. Let me show you our Camel Festival. Come and be here with us in December and help us to design and to create to uplift our women